co-owner of Lodestone Games. Oh, Matthias behind him. Behind Jake Schacker here. Love it. They're both playing. Yes, I hope they play against each other. Nothing would make me happier. Ryan has apparently mulled to 6, scribe to the bottom, so he'll be starting a little short-handed here in game number 1 of round number 1 here. And we are underway. It's a Forest. It's a Utopia Sprawl. There's really only one deck that does that. Now remember, even though I give Green Land Destruction a little bit of a joke, Andrew Walbers did win SCG Dallas earlier this year with this deck in a dominant performance. So this is a thing that people do, as here comes Monastery Swiftspear off of Spire Bluff Canal.
I think this deck is legit.
It's actually not bad.
Not every matchup is great, and the reason that I would not play this deck in the tournament is I think you're just too bad on the draw across the board. But if you're winning your die rolls, this deck can easily win a tournament.
Let's see what 3-mana spell it's going to be. It's going to be Molten Rain.
Oh, starting off nice and early. Yeah. Let me check out the action here.
Ryan will play a Polluted Delta. He'll sacrifice that, fall down to at least 17, potentially 15 as he digs up a land, though he might be losing this one as well. There's a basic island. Schacker here with Molten Rain, Blood Moon, and Stone Rain as 4 ofs. And since I mentioned Stone Rain, I'm going to go ahead and check off my old free space on my bingo square. Nick Miller's done a nice job of trolling us here this weekend, reversing our bingo cards. Looks like, go ahead.
You see a lot more of this in Legacy than Modern, but it's the same principle here. Cutting lands out of your deck and adding cantrips. Overturf doing this to enable prowess on all of his prowess threats. It's a tough way to do it against land destruction. You would prefer to have just more lands in your deck, and it's very easy for Overturf to get in a spot where he's stranded with a bunch of cantrips.
There's Stone Rain. Yeah, here we go. Overturf not working with a lot of lands. We'll see if he's got a third one. He does. It's another fetch.
That's pretty fortunate. His deck plays 18 lands.
I don't imagine too many. How many fetches you got in there?
4 Tarns, 4 Deltas.
Okay.
3 Steam Vents, 3 Spire Bluff Canal, 2 of each basic.
Got it. Overturf will play another copy of Sleight of Hand. Prowess Trigger, of course, in the Swiftspear means that thing will be attacking for at least 2. So Overturf will consult his hand. Ryan does actually have 2 other lands in hand, 2 mountains.
So this is the tough spot here. I mean, he would prefer to take a spell over a land. I believe he was looking at Serum Vision and a land. But if he gets Stone Rain again, he's down to 2 mountains, and then his cantrip is uncastable.
Shacker's going to sacrifice his Misty Rainforest on the end step. Looks like he's going to fall down to 12, will Jake, as he digs out a forest. Now, the big threats for this land destruction deck, if you're new to it, they've got 2 Corsair Crew Fix, a singleton copy of P and Kieran Nalaar, 3 Inferno Titans, 4 Bloodbraid Elves, 4 Tireless Tracker, and then 4 copies of Arbor Elf, which works very well with Forest, particularly those that have Utopia Sprawl on them.
I like 4 main deck Tireless Trackers. I think that's a good spot for this deck to be at. You get into spots where you kind of run out of things to do, or you have 1 threat and it gets killed, and just extra cards to work with. Very valuable for this sort of deck.
There is an Arbor Elf. Here's a Windswept Tea, simply going to pass the turn back, so I have to imagine that Shacker's got some number of Inferno Titans in hand if he's not doing much else right now.
Yeah, he had a lot of really good plays on that turn. Any of his big creatures, 2 main deck copies of Chandra Torch of Defiance. Certainly the land destruction cards would have been good there.
Yes. Overturf will sacrifice his Scalding Tarn, so yes, he has found plenty of lands here this game. No question about it here for Overturf, as he'll search up a Steam Vents, take 2 there, 3 total. And we'll see another manipulation spell, I imagine. It will be Opt, which will trigger the prowess on Monastery Swiftspear yet again. Ryan will scry 1. That card's going to become the bottom now. He'll draw a fresh card. In comes Swiftspear here for 2. And a Lightning Bolt to kill Arbor Elf will give Swiftspear another point of power, so he'll be attacked there for 3, as we'll head back over to Schacker.
So keep in mind, Overturf's removal, just the 8 bolts, the Wizard's Lightning and Lightning Bolt. No counters, no bounce. So if Shacker's able to stick one of his large threats, particularly Inferno Titan, Overturf basically has to go to the air or burn him out. Not the easiest things to do.
Shacker is a little bit low here. He is at 8. It would take 3 bolts, obviously, of which Ryan has used 1 of his 8.
Yeah, Storm Chaser Mage might allow him to cobble together off of 2. But the short of it is he would need a lot of burn spells to finish out this game, assuming Schacker has one of his big plays.
Now I'm taking a look at Schacker's hand, and he only has lands to play, it appears, as Overturf will draw a card. Ryan, I'm sure, a little curious about what's going on over there. To note, Ryan and Matthias were the ones who did call the green-red land destruction win, so Ryan might actually know what he's up against. Not sure if he's friends with Andrew Walbers, who won that tournament. He's actually a Minnesota native, so he might be a little bit more informed about what's going on the other side of the table, where most may not be, because green-red land destruction, though it is a tournament-winning deck, is not ubiquitous in the modern format. Faithless Looting, here's an attack. We will head back over to Jake. Jake wants to take a look at the graveyard. Looks like Ryan actually discarded a copy of Wizard's Lightning. That's not great news for Jake.
Yeah, I suspect it means Overturf has the game rolled up if he can untap.
Yep, and there's a Lightning Bolt on the end step. Jake is going to fall down to 3. Overturf will draw. Ryan will play a Wizard's Lightning for 3, and that is going to take care of it. So Ryan Overturf is going to win game number 1 here over Jake Schacker. Blue-Red Wizards up a game here over Green-Red Land Destruction to get our day started. These players are going to go to the sideboards. We will be doing the same. But first, a few messages from our lovely sponsors. We are back. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth, watching Ryan Overturf and Jake Schacker play some Magic. Blue-Red Wizards versus Green-Red Land Destruction. Land Destruction down a game, so we will take a look at 3 Anger of the Gods, 2 Huntmaster of the Fells, 2 Scavenging Ooze, 2 Trinisphere. In a Braid, a Nissa of Voice of Zendikar, a Relic of Progenitus, an Ancient Grudge, and an Obstinate Baloth here for Jake.
I like bringing in some of the regular cards. They're very efficient at attacking and blocking this kind of matchup. The Baloth, the 2 copies of Huntmaster of the Fells. I like the 3 Anger of the Gods here against Overturf's small threats. The Relic of Progenitus. I suppose the Trinisphere is probably fine with Schacker on the play here, as Overturf is flush with a lot of cheap cards. So a lot of good options here.
For Ryan Overturf, he's got 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Negate, 2 Dispel, 2 Abrade, 2 Kozilek's Return, a Smash of Smithereens, a Magma Spray, and a Dismember.
I'm not a huge fan of anything here besides the 1 Magma Spray and maybe the 2 Spell Pierces. I think that Negate is just too much mana to fight over Schacker's cards if Overturf stacks on mana. A lot of the other cards here for different matchups.
And those are the options there for both players. As they do take a look at their 7 cards, they'll be underway in just a moment, but we got to give Ryan a little bit of love here on the broadcast because he's got a new token, as does Ross Merriam. Go.starcitygames.com/IQ. Find an invitational qualifier near you, and that's where you can obtain one or both of these tokens. Ross Merriam on your left, that's an elemental token for your young pyromancers out there and many other elemental generators. And for Ryan Overturf, well, he is a national treasure after all. And there you see Ryan. You can sacrifice him to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So, there you are. Game number 2 about to be underway here. Looks like Overturf will be taking a mulligan. Started on 6 cards last game. Looks like he'll be starting at least on 6 cards this game. Deck doesn't have a ton of lands in it. Might be finding some hands that only have 1 or no lands pretty often.
Well, he's got to have threat cards and enough mana to get off the ground. And it's possible there's some 1 land plus some cantrip hands that he can normally keep 7 cards on the draw, but here those hands just become too risky.
Overturf will lay out a new set. We'll see if he's happy with these here in just a moment. He will scry, and top card becomes the bottom. Jake on the play. Had a Utopia Sprawl to start last game. We'll see if he's got another 1 mana spell to start this game. He'll start with a Windswept Heath. He'll sacrifice that. So Arbor Elf or Utopia Sprawl on the way here, presumably for Jake. Stomping Ground, the weapon of choice. Going to bring Jake down to 17. There's your Arbor Elf, and this enables a second turn land destruction spell, potentially a Blood Moon as well, as Overturf will very quickly sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, fall down to 19, potentially 17, of course.
Schacker has so many good cards in his sideboard, in my opinion, that I would be surprised if the Blood Moons came in. He could realistically bring in 7, 8, 9 cards, and you just run out of space at a certain point.
That's a Lightning Bolt to take care of the Arbor Elf. We go back over to Jake. He'll play a Forest, pass the turn back over to Overturf.
Speaking to, I believe the Blood Moons are probably cut at this point.
Polluted Delta here for Ryan. He'll fall down to 16 at least. All right, down to 14.
Yeah, I like aggressively searching out the dual lands in this matchup because Overturf can't get cut off of a color. He needs to be able to cast a lot of red spells or a lot of blue spells in the same turn. And he doesn't want to go get a basic, go get a dual land, have the dual land blown up, and then be cut off of half the cards in his hand.
Ryan with the Serum Visions. Swift Spear before that, so he'll attack for 2. And now here's a Forest for Jake. And that is a Tireless Tracker. That's worth killing if Overturf can kill it as he draws a card. Lightning Bolt says that he can. Here's an attack for 2 in Island and a passing of the turn back to Jake. Another Forest here for Jake, and now we'll see a Bloodbraid Elf. Cascade Trigger. Courser of Crufix.
Courser of Crufix is really bad news for a strategy like Overturf. It's just so big, and the incidental life gain is a big deal as well.
Bloodbraid Elf looks like it's going to attack, and it will. You see the top card there of Jake's deck is a Utopia Sprawl as we head back over to Ryan at 2-4. Those stats actually pretty hard for Overturf. Can't bolt that thing out of the way.
Yep. I've had all sorts of problems playing with this card, playing against that card with Burn, and Overturf strategy is close enough to that.
Looks like Jake's just going to take the 1.
And doesn't want to lose his Courser for a Bolt.
And Overturf is going to pass the turn back, maybe with Wizard's Lightning, Spell Pierce, or Negate at the ready. Top card here for Schacker looks to be another copy of Tireless Tracker. Normally when we see Courser, it's in the hands of Todd Stevens, your 2017 SCG Tour Player of the Year.
The value.
Yeah, all the value. Little bit of value to be generated here from the land destruction deck as there is a Windswept Heath. Trigger the Courser, gain a life. Jake's hand does have a copy of Inferno Titan in it. Can't cast it just yet. So in the meantime, he will do some attacking here. Bloodbraid Elf and Courser will come into the red zone. Overturf looks like he's going to take all that damage. The follow-up here for Jake is going to be that Utopia Sprawl. Put it on a forest. Likely named red, but we'll get confirmation. And your follow-up. Oh, yeah. A little Molten Rain, huh?
Love it. As you may know.
Red is the name on that Utopia Sprawl.
And the last card left over in Schacker's hand is...
That's the Titan.
Inferno Titan. So now he has double red, plus 6 mana for next turn.
Overturf is going to play a Snapcaster Mage. He will flashback Lightning Bolt. Can he get the job done this turn somehow? It would be in his best interest to get this game over this turn if he can.
Requires 2 bolts. I don't think he can cantrip and bolt.
Well, he will start with an opt, and he will think about the opt. And that card becomes the bottom card. New card coming here for Overturf. Prowess trigger there on the Swiftspear means that right now he's got 4 points of power on the battlefield. Got to figure out a way to deal 6 more.
This is a small thing, but I guess it depends. If Schacker's going to fetch anyway because he's casting Inferno Titan next turn, I would prefer that he just did it on his own turn because you don't want to get into a spot where you take a point of damage off the Heath and you get killed before the land enters the battlefield. And you trigger your Courser.
Yep. Bolt is going to take care of the Bloodbraid Elf. And it'll be an attack there for 5, but what it looks like is that Heath-Courser interaction is not going to come back to hurt Jake.
It's possible he just wants to take a look at it because he can fetch for a forest regardless, and he wants the opportunity to be able to play a land off the top if the Courser provides one.
Yep.
So he might have not had any intent to do that anyway.
There's a basic forest.
But we should be wrapping up the game here momentarily.
Yeah, but you are right. That could have been bad news.
Yeah.
That definitely he could have gotten himself down to 1 presumably, and then not be able to fetch. That bring him down to 0 before the Courser triggers, as you mentioned. Utopia Sprawl is the reveal. There's Inferno Titan. Ryan knows we are all done. As Jake Schacker is going to win game number 2 here over Ryan Overturf. Green-red Land Destruction, blue-red Wizards. Not 2 decks we see a ton of in Modern, but that's how we're starting the show here. They're getting ready for a third and final one. We will too in just a moment, but first, a few messages. We are back. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, getting ready to watch game number 3 between Ryan Overturf playing Blue-Red Wizards and Jake Schacker playing Green-Red Land Destruction. That's how we're kicking off our coverage here in Minneapolis, Minnesota at SCG Tour. Hashtag SCGMINN. To do what, Patrick?
Join the conversation.
There you go.
Join the shouting match with your other faceless, whatever you want to imagine them to be.
Jackals.
Yes. I did really like Chupacabras last week.
Yeah, that was good.
That was a good suggestion.
That's good. Our Chupacabra fan clubs.
Yes.
As it were. Both these players are going to lay out 7. Overturf will be on the play here for game number 3. See if he can keep 7 this go around.
Yeah, on the play and with his first 7-card hand.
Yep.
Both big deals here. And this will be the test for red-green land destruction and why I'm skeptical of the deck is, what does it look like when you're on the draw?
These players will be given the green light here in just a moment, and we will be underway. All right, Ryan. He'll start with the Polluted Delta. Down at least 19. Let's see how low he wants to go. He was aggressively searching up steam vents last game. He will do that again, falling down to 17.
His life total isn't under a whole lot of pressure in this matchup. If it matters, the game's already pretty far gone, and he needs to protect himself, not just from having enough mana in play, but the right colors as well. He's got to get as many steam vents as possible.
Monastery Swiss here is going to bring Jake down to 19. A Forest and Utopia Sprawl. It's a great start here for Jake.
Yep, he wants to be on the Utopia Sprawl here at Overturf with a lot of removal spells for the mana creatures. So this is a stable way for Schacker to accelerate his mana.
Red is the name for the Utopia Sprawl, of course, as Overturf will sacrifice Polluted Delta yet again. Down to 14. Looks a lot like game number 2. We'll see if the result will be different, however, for Ryan. As he lost that second game, he will play a sleight of hand trigger, the Swift Spear. 2-power Swift Spear, looking at a Wizard's Lightning, and it looks like another land, and he is going to take a card. Didn't get a great look at which one.
I believe he took the land. He has Snapcaster Mage in hand, so just wants to pair that up with his third mana flashback, a 1-mana spell.
He'll do a little bit of opting now, will Overturf. He'll keep that card. Attack here for 3. Good Swift Spear turn, as we'll head back over to Jake. He'll untap that one Forest, though he does have access to 2 mana. Likely a third on the way, and we'll see what his turn 2 play is going to be. Again, Courser was a huge issue there for Overturf in game number 2. That thing was large. Only 2 Coursers in the main deck here for Jake, however, as he's going to sacrifice the Misty Rainforest. Fall down to 16, get himself a basic Forest.
This is not exactly a Courser Crufix deck in the same way that Todd Stevens is, but he still needs a lot of mana, so the extra land drops are valuable. And the Red Green Land Destruction deck is a little bit soft to burn, and Courser Crufix is a great card in that matchup.
Let's make it 15 for Jake, and he will play a Courser, reveal Bloodbraid Elf. We're going to head back over to Overturf. The 2-4 is here. Overturf looking at quite a few red cards in hand right now. He will attack with the Swift Spear. See if Jake has any interest in blocking or not.
At 15, you know, the card you're concerned about here the most is Lightning Bolt. And if you don't block and he's got a bolt in his hand, you're starting to get dangerously low. Looks like Schacker, though, just taking it, and Overturf with no follow-up play.
Overturf will play a Polluted Delta. Play a Soul Scar Mage. Well, that's a creative way to get rid of Courser of Crufix, I suppose. Take a look at Soul Scar Mage really quick. I know it's not a standard tournament. We're not watching red-black aggro or mono-red aggro, but Soul Scar Mage has made its way in to Modern, apparently, as Overturf. He'll watch as the Courser of Crufix will put a land on the battlefield and reveal another copy of Bloodbraid Elf.
Ooh, Expedition on the battlefield.
Yep, hit it.
Hit it.
There's a Human Wizards, 1-2 with Prowess. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to a creature an opponent controls, put a -1/-1 counter. Put that many -1/-1 counters, on that creature instead. So Lightning Bolt would give a creature -3/-3 permanently as opposed to dealing a 3 damage, as an example.
Also, it is a wizard.
And
Wizard's Lightning deals damage and is a spell for prowess.
All of those things are true.
So many synergies.
He's brought his A game early. That's good. You are woke, as the kids say. Here is a Bloodbraid Elf. There is a Scavenging Ooze. And things are starting to get a little more difficult for Ryan. Can't get any easier when there's a Molten Rain staring back at you.
Well, Schacker, I don't believe, can cast it. So that's something.
Not yet. Not yet.
Missing double red just on 3 Forest plus the Utopia Sprawl.
Bloodbraid Elf going to come into the red zone here.
Not exactly a no-risk attack here. If Overturf has 2 instants to play, the Soul Scar Magus just swallows up.
You see the 2 bolts in hand. It is curious if Ryan wants to do that. Now, number of steam vents Ryan is playing, there are 3, so he could fetch another one.
Yes.
And he may just do that, and he will. So Soul Scar Mage, looking at Bloodbraid Elf, this could get a little bit interesting here.
You know, you could go ahead and maybe bolt Schacker, bolt the Scavenging Ooze, let's say.
He will bolt the Ooze. Soul Scar Mage will become a 2/3 now with Prowess. Bolts him. So now Soul Scar Mage is a 3/4. Bloodbraid Elf will lose that combat. It's like Bloodbraid Elf did nothing, but I suppose it did trade with 2 lightning bolts, so certainly did a little bit more than nothing as we're going to head back over to Overturf, it appears. Overturf does have that Snapcaster Mage in hand, also has a copy of Spell Pierce here. He will attack with a Soulscar Mage and a Monastery Swift Spear. And Jake eyeing up that Courser. He's thought about blocking with it last turn. Looks like he's going to block with it this turn. He'll block Soulscar Mage. All right, here's Snapcaster Mage, Lightning Bolt. Going to make Courser a little bit smaller, trigger prowess on both the creatures. 2 damage will come through from the Swift Spear. Overturf will play an Island. Last card in hand for Ryan is a Spell Pierce as we head back over to Jake. He'll draw a Molten Rain. We won't see the next card. No Courser on the battlefield, at least I think, as here comes a Foothills. He'll sacrifice that, will Jake.
And now would be a really good moment here for Anger of the Gods. And Schacker could pay for the Spell Pierce left over in Overturf's hand, and Overturf would be left with just a counter spell that doesn't counter very much.
Well, the way he's tapping that mana, it is Anger of the Gods. That is a... Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, that's a very confident Spell Pierce as he will attack Wizards Light. Is that game?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Ryan Overturf going to win this match here over Jake Schacker. 2 games to 1. Blue-Red Wizards going to beat Green Land Destruction.